Hello, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. Very good, very good, very good. Just waiting for the comments to show up so I know people are here. So welcome. Please tell me that you're here and where you're from, which is always really nice for me to to see. I love getting the comments. Not quite sure why I'm not seeing any of the comments yet. Any of the stuff. YouTube is sometimes a bit slow. So I may have to refresh here, which I'm going to do, so I can get everything to load up the way it should. That's starting to look a little better. And here comes the chat. Good, 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 good. Hello, everyone. Hey, G. Hey, Sean. Good to see you. Sean, I think, is in Australia now. Yeah. Which is what? 4 o'clock, which is probably about, what, 7 in the morning there. St. Hills, hi. Good to see you. Pam from the UK. Brian in Virginia. As everybody's arriving. Bogdan. Aline Ristia. Hi. Where are you from? Love to know where you're from. I love all these names that I have a hard time pronouncing. Hello from Brazil / California. I didn't know they moved Brazil to California. It's way bigger than California. Obviously, originally from Brazil, now living in California, I'll bet. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. As people are beginning to join. I'm trusting that you can all hear me since you've been responding. You know, because I don't have an earpiece or anything. I have no idea what's going on out here, because I'm just checking the chat to make sure I'm heard. Hello from Eliville. Hello, Eli. How you doing? Jill from Massachusetts. Romania. Bogdan is from Romania. Bogdan, did I say that correctly? Maljuga from Slovenia. Hello. Emiliano from Sweden. Wow, the audio is great. Great. Glad to hear that. Glad to hear that. Wonderful. Wonderful. Sandpoint, Ohio. I am heard. Judy from Florida. Wonderful. I'll move this a little bit so you all get to I guess I should try to record this too, just in case. Yeah, that's great. Okay, so you can see the pretty flowers we have. Here. I like to go out and see if I can get fresh ones a couple times a week for making all these videos. So welcome everyone to Satsang, your opportunity during the week to forget about everything except you and your spiritual freedom. That's what Satsang is for. There's enough time during the week where our attention is completely absorbed in the outside world, to give yourself the opportunity to be contemplative, to be introspective, to ask yourself the real questions about what matters. Even though there's everybody in the world wants to tell you what matters, but really it's only you that knows, and that's only discovered from a deep inquiry. And it's a mystical inquiry. I love that word, mystical. And I have been called a mystic on occasion. And I even entitled this show, Mysticism is the Cure for Fundamentalism. It's fundamentalism, dogmatism, pretty much any ideology um, always rules out the essential mystery. There's something about the mind that just doesn't like a mystery. Well, it is. There's actually a section in the brain. I call it. I don't remember what the original guys who discovered it was, but I call it the storyteller mind, and it's actually a function of our brain that creates a narrative to go with the circumstances. Not only creates it, but believes it. So there is something very strong and powerful in us, which pushes us towards, quote unquote, knowing things, even if we don't know them. We just want to feel like we do. And so that, every religion, every spiritual endeavor has started with an experience which the ones talking about it, the ones who had it, always say is totally mystical. I disappeared. I was not there. Now, that's impossible for us to understand what that means logically, reasonably. That's the mystery of it. It's an experience of you, that is, the egoic mind, all the structures that you know of yourself, simply disappearing. They're just not there for a period of time. For some rare individuals, that disappears and never comes back. Like Ramana and Nisargadatta, people who we regard as fully enlightened sages, like Muji or Ramana, Buddha, or Christ for that matter, that collection of thoughts and patterns and behaviors and habits that we normally think of as ourselves just vaporizes and never gets put back together again. That's the mystical experience. That's mysticism. I don't actually like the word mysticism. It's encountering the mystery of how you can be yourself, but not be anything like what you thought you were. How that entire function, that entire process of the egoic mind can just be gone. Usually those mystical experiences, people try to convey it to others. They even take on students. Some of the students actually get there. They have the experience. They have that kind of disillusion of the false sense of self. For most, that the false sense of self, the egoic mind, kind of puts itself back together again. Kind of reforms it. Maybe it's better, maybe it's more nuanced, maybe it's more subtle, but it keeps coming back. It keeps reconstructing itself. And then we have to kind of go through the entire process again. That is the process of spiritual growth. I will sometimes call that the post-awakening sadhana, the practice of having experienced something or something like that, or even close to it. It's a very big shift in how you begin to see things. The opposite of that, what happens when all of that gets commandeered by the mind, and the storyteller mind wants a narrative. It wants something it can point at and say, this is what it is, this, and this. It combines with really our worst instincts, the tribal part of us that just wants, to kill anything that doesn't look like me. That the overzealous sense and need for self-protection, and without the inclusiveness. The mystical experience is always 100% empathetic. The heart's wide open. It love everything, right? I've heard it described like some little phrase on a Hallmark card: "Love is the answer," except it's literally true. That kind of experience of the mystical experience, and so. But when it starts getting reduced to that, the mind's always, its rules, its behavior, it gets reduced to a completely different thing. And then because we invest so much in this, because, once the storyteller mind believes something, it feels very threatened if that belief is challenged. It gets so identified with our stories. I mean, that's the sense of identification we all feel. When somebody challenges some idea we have, every one of us feels a little bit of a sense of wanting to defend their turf. That's natural to what we do. If it gets too extreme, you get what we think of as fundamentalism, and the fundamentalism takes all kinds. There's fundamentalists, vegans, right? There's fundamentalists, of every kind of religion that are always extreme. And of course, the more fundamentalist you are, the more you can justify the extreme behavior, like, strapping bomb to yourself and blowing up innocent people, or showing up at a funeral and telling everybody they're going to go to hell. You're the person in the coffin is going to go to hell because they were gay. That kind of extreme inhumanity and barbarity is justified the closer you fall to that. The antidote is mysticism. The antidote is not discussing this factor, this factor, this fact. It's really all quite useless until somebody experiences the transcendent state. It will all just be a bunch of mind fodder. It'll all just be chit chat, It would be great if that chit chat was at least civil rather than violent, but unfortunately, the natural tendency of that is to increase feeling of increasingly be threatened, resulting in an increase of violence. Because the more threatened we feel, the more we are willing to do violence. We're not naturally violent. Humans are not naturally violent. People have said we are. It's not true. Right? In Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which is a very famous piece of work, that basic physical needs is the lower level, and if that's met, you can go to higher states up to full self-actualization or peak experiences. According to him, which I agree with, if we fall below that line, that bottom line of my own just personal physical safety or that of my tribe, my family or something is threatened, that is the only time a human being will resort to violence. It is not our nature. It is only a matter of life and death. So why do I say that mysticism, the mystic experience, is the antidote? Because the mystic experience is actually the truth. Everything else, every spiritual idea, however good it is a watering down. It's an approximation of it. It's not the real deal. It's an attempt to point someone's attention from simply the symbolic representation of something very intimate and subjective, and point them towards the possibility of experiencing it for themselves. This is what I do all the time here on Satsang. That's the mission. Every question I try to turn, to spin, forgive the propaganda term, I try to spin into an opportunity for closer self-examination, for turning it into a way of trying to find the place where the answers actually come from. Or what I should rather say, the place where the questions don't even arise, the place, the experience is the answer. That's the nature of the mystical experience. And mystical, I mean, funny hats and robes and things like that. All it means is an intensive, often intensive, intuitive, direct knowing of something that is with absolute conviction and without a doubt. Now, fundamentalism tries to usurp that and wants you to believe without a doubt. I don't doubt it. It says it right here in the scriptures. But of course there is doubt. The amount of energy it takes to try to sustain something learned as being absolutely true is enormous. And of course, that's what causes our sense of insecurity that makes it fight for it and the like. That's not the case in the mystic experience. The mystic experience is one of you just know. And there isn't any doubt, and there isn't any argument, and there isn't any questions. It is just the direct, absolute experience. Now, one of those things, one way in which we can go there, because people come back and report amazingly, huge deals, both whether it be a spiritual experience through meditation or ayahuasca or mushrooms or something like that. They reported these incredible experiences. It isn't to deny that, because that's all well and good, but you can have one right now. You can go to a place where the experience is so immediate and so obvious that it's unmistakable, and it's really simple. Right? Just consider right now your own existence. Now, no questions about what am I, what's my life about, what's the purpose of things. Just the sheer intuitive knowing that you are, that I exist. Is there any doubt about that? Is there any question about you existing or not? Obviously, there can't be. I mean, even if this is all a dream, then all of a sudden you're going to wake up and you're in a bed somewhere on another planet or something, right? Or the reality is that this is a big hallucination and you're in some mental institution right now yelling at a wall, right? That may be true. I can't tell you that what you are experiencing is absolutely objectively real. And in fact, I highly suspect it isn't. Okay? But it is undoubtable that you are. Whatever you're experiencing, you are experiencing it. Folks, if you just take a moment and look at that, that is the mystical experience. Absolute, undoubted knowing, self-knowing. No question could possibly stand there. Now you might say, well, big deal. What's that all about? I want the lights and everything. One thing at a time. The mission is to come in contact with that which is undoubtable, which is absolutely certain. And that is that I am. That sense of I amness. And I want you to just go there because it is really important. Meditating on that sense of I amness is the deepest meditation you can possibly do because it's pure. It's right there. And from what is known without doubt, everything that could possibly be known would have to arise from there. It can't be, what's known couldn't arise from what's dubious. We can't know something if we don't even know if I'm really experiencing it or not. I can't know something in a dream. I can think I know it in the dream. I can think I'm experiencing it, but I can't actually know it. It's always doubtful. The only thing that isn't doubtful is you. Please try to taste the power of that because it's deeply significant. And on a very practical level, it's the cure for the fundamentalism that is basically destroying the world. I'm not just talking about, people blowing each other, terrorism and things like that. Capitalism is a fundamentalist belief. It's an absolute belief. It doesn't get questioned. There are many forms of politics and economics. Capitalism just happens to be dominating the world right now. And it's a fundamentalist view. It applies itself and is even capable of violence in order to support its position. So it is a fundamentalist view. So we can take a step back and recognize that, well, then it's not absolutely true. It's always true only because I believe it's true and it's relative to something else. Maybe it's the best system that's available, maybe not. I don't think so myself, but that's not really the point, right? Fundamentalism is just the adherence to something, trying to make it without doubt when it's riddled with doubt, trying to just exclude anything you don't want to see in order to have the illusion of the security of certainty. What's actually available to you right here, right now, is absolute certainty on one thing, and that's all you need. I'm here. And I'm having an experience. I don't know the nature of this experience, but I'm having it. So I'm open for questions. Please ask them early. I don't know how long I'm gonna last tonight. Somebody said, like you said, humans aren't naturally violent, but killing animals is kind of violent. Yes, if you look at it deeply historically, it's always been just the violence of nature. We have killed because we have needed to eat. Certainly not on the scale that we do. I mean, actually, animal protein is a very small part of our diet, like maybe 15%, and it was occasional. You know, it wasn't all the time. Not like now, right? Where we've, you know, and now the level of cruelty and barbarity in that, but we don't see that as violent. That's different. You know, violence is something that arises because you're threatened. This is insanity, is what it is. The treatment of animals and our incessant appetite for meat, and everybody, basically anybody who eats meat is complicit in it, right? So if you eat meat but you're offended by the meat industry, you are complicit. You are voting for it. You are supporting it. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news. If you don't have any issue with, you know, the way the animals are treated and the chemicals they've given and all of that, well, okay. And then I would invite you to take a look at your humanity. But if you do, you know, that's why I stopped eating meat. I mean, the reality of it was just brought strikingly home to me, and I just couldn't do it anymore. So I don't want to get out. This isn't this isn't about politics or, you know, supporting vegetarianism. It's about how blind we can become. I mean, something like that is a good example of us just becoming blind. We're turning a blind eye to it because we don't want to question it. We don't want to give up what we have. It's a willful ignorance, but it is. I mean, that's the essence of the kind of ideology that in its extreme form is, you know, violent fundamentalism, right? But no, your nature is not essentially violent, and most people are abhorred by it. Yeah. Okay, let's go back to some of the other questions here. Shanika, who is here from I think she's in the UK, or I think it's a she. I have two questions for you. Number one, if gravity is pulling everything down, why do trees grow upward? Is it normal? I can only answer that question metaphorically. Everything. The wonder of life is that life is kind of the universe's answer to entropy, where everything just kind of grinding to a halt. It's found this way through self-replicating systems to kind of stand up where gravity wants to pull everything down, to reach up where is just as kind of this counter force, kind of the yin-yang kind of thing going on. And when I look at it poetically, metaphorically, or spiritually, the way I like to do, I see everything on the planet reaching for the light. I mean, the light is the central source. It's all the energy that is here that fuels our bodies, and these lights that are around me in this machine, it all came from the sun. I mean, we dug it out in the form of oil, but that was energy collected from the sun that got stored in that particular format. So if you look at it metaphorically, you can see that everything in the earth is inviting you to reach for the sun being unconditioned consciousness. You could call it God, and one time we worshipped it as God, but it's a reaching for the transcendent. That tree is you, reaching for what appears to be beyond you. And these are the beautiful examples that nature gives us, but they're examples. If you just look at them from the point of view of of their material structures and you miss the whole point. You miss the spirit in it. You miss the real spirit in the system. You're lost in the tree, and you can't see the life of the tree. It just becomes this structure. That's what materialism does. It reduces it to that kind of thing. But when you see it through those eyes, you see that it is really a part of you that is inviting you to reach. And in that reaching, the tree gets bigger and stronger and more powerful and can last for centuries. Like the bristlecone pine is like 2,000 or 3,000 years. It's lasted. Very, very old. They're the oldest trees on the planet as far as I know. So look at nature as communicating to you. Look at it like spirit guides or something. If you like it in those terms, I don't really have an issue with it. I mean, I don't see it anthropomorphized. I see it as kind of this energy within us that opens our eyes to the deeper meaning and unity of everything on our planet. And this planet is just awash with that kind of diversity and brilliance and wisdom. And we're, it's one of the things that we're ignoring and are inflicting violence ignorantly inflicting violence on the planet and robbing ourselves of that simply because we don't actually see it for what it is. We're not seeing it through us. We're seeing it through these materialistic eyes. So it's just, a piece of lumber instead of this living being that is inviting you to the heavens. If you get around, I've been around some ancient trees and ancient forests, and their energy is power. You can feel them. They are of the same being that you are. They have that same sense of I am that you are. You have a consciousness. You have a different level that allows you to ponder that, but that essential sense of existence, of being, of the I amness is in everything. It's in inanimate objects. It's in this incense holder. It's in the glass. It's in everything. Nothing is outside of it. Everything, however inanimate it might seem, has that sense I am. And that sense I am isn't a different I am in each one. It's the same I am in all of us. So I hope that leads you in the direction that to go. And is it normal? Yes, absolutely, it's normal. Yeah, they're kind of our guides. Soundscape says hello, and Shanika says my second question. And Soundscape is from Dorset. Oh, very good. Shanika says my second question is that ever since I remember, I love trees, plants, animals, etc. In other words, the entire nature, but never have felt that love, compassion, kindness towards humans. I hear that a lot. There's a lot of people who say that. There's a lot of nasty stuff. I mean, human beings are not showing their best side right now, to the point where the earth may just have to say, well, I'm kind of done with this pest. And the earth decides it will shake us off like, dog shakes water off its back. We are not a problem for that. With nature and animals and children and the like, it is very easy for us to feel the congruence, the inherent unity of us. There's nothing in the way. Right? There's no extra thoughts or anything. There's no baggage. You have no stories about them. The level of experience is very innocent and very pure. That's why people want to take a walk in the woods. People like to meditate in the woods and prefer there to meditating in the middle of New York City. Right? What we don't realize is that very same energy that feels so obviously present in nature is present in every single human being. We just have to learn to look for it. We first have to discover it within ourselves. And then we have to gain the wisdom that can see through the conditioned patterns of the nervous system to the essential being that is there. And believe me, you can see it. The learning to do that is what you might call the heart opening, the level of compassion. The moment you realize, or the deeper you realize, that your own behavior throughout your life has been primarily robotic. It has been primarily without choice. It has been primarily just conditioned responses, including the ones that you're ashamed of, you regret, you wish never happened. Those are the most significant, actually. They're the ones that really wake us up to this. You realize that everybody's in exactly the same boat. Everybody is having that experience. If you are fortunate enough to be among the few but growing who have awakened to the fact that those conditioned responses are not actually who I am, but I have been wrongly believing that they are, and therefore giving them power and ruining my life. That awakening makes you recognize that exact same thing in somebody else. The namaste, the divine in me recognizes the divine in you. And it'll really be literally true, just not a cute phrase you say after yoga. That it'll actually be a genuine perception of the divinity in another, because it is there. We just don't know to look for it. And sometimes it's hard to look for it. Sometimes it's hard to see. When people like, politicians, the people who are running countries, there doesn't seem to be any humanity in them. And there isn't any humanity in the robotic actions that they're carrying out. But there is, at the essence, that same essential life form that's in nature, that it's in you. The more you discover it in you, the more you see through your own conditioning, the more you'll see it in others, and the more you will forgive the conditioning of others, because you realize it's a robot. There's no choice there. It is doing what it was designed to do, and it will continue to do that until awareness is brought to it, consciousness. Consciousness, which is the probably the more civilized term for mysticism, conscious awareness, is the answer to humanity's problems. And that's the only thing that will solve them. Because it is the unconsciousness that is a total identification with the stream of thoughts, which is just the robot of the nervous system and how it was programmed, will continue along the path that it's continuing. It doesn't know any better. It's just going to keep going because it's a robot. That's how it was programmed. It's just going to keep going. So the only cure is awakening. The only cure is consciousness. That consciousness recognizes, first off, that I am not that, and then secondly, recognizes what that is and how it operates. From that place, the conditioning can begin to be molded into something else, because there's nothing wrong with the capacity to condition. Right? Conditioning is what allows us to play piano and talk and all that sort of stuff. It's just the conditioning into a constant state of self-defensiveness and aggressiveness, which is what we end up with, into ideologies. That pattern can be interrupted because wisdom is present. And that wisdom has got love in it because, once you see this in yourself, how can you condemn it in somebody else? Yeah, we're all bozos on this bus. It's the same thing, right? And it really brings you to this place of enormous love. So much love that somebody like Christ willingly just kind of said, well, then go ahead, kill me. Rather than participate in the robot, rather than fight it, resist it, or anything, he just let it do its thing. I mean, it's just the ultimate in complete and total surrender to what is. And miraculous. I mean, we still talk about him because it was that significant. So I hope that answers your question. It's a beautiful question. I really do appreciate it. Just discover that same beingness that you so enjoy in nature is in the human being. The human being occupies a very unique place in this because it is this beingness becoming self-aware. And in the process of doing that, there's a lot of stuff that's happening, a lot of conditioning. That growing intelligence gets commandeered, it gets associated with the egoic tendencies, and it's a big hodgepodge, and you can sort it out. Like, I don't have the time to sort it all out for you right now. You can sort it out, but it is a big hodgepodge, and it takes some very deep insights to begin to separate out the wheat from the chaff. I know, again, Shanika says, I don't know whether I find that us humans are selfish, unkind, and greedy, etc. Why do they feel that way? I don't force myself to anything. It just happens. Well, I don't understand the part of that last question, but it is the nature of the egoic mind to be selfish. We believe ourselves to be bound by, limited by, and destined by our bodies. The I, that is consciousness, identifies with the body, is told to, everybody has been told to, we all do it. That body, of course, being identified with that, naturally feels fear and lack, the sense of tribalism, the sense of safety, and that is what appears as selfishness. Now, unselfishness is not a moral behavior you can impose on that because you're dealing with something that is essentially selfish. It's about me. What has to break down is the imaginary boundary between me and other, which was created when the I am the body belief took root. You're not the body. You are no more this body than the song you hear on the radio is the radio. This is just an instrument that we have mistaken to be ourselves, and therefore developed a self-image that is limited and bounded by it. That self-image, being limited and bounded, becomes defensive, and I want for me, and that's where you get greed and hoarding. You get income inequality. You get what we would call selfishness. It's actually egoism, and the only cure, consciousness, which leads to love, which leads to a sense of self that is not bounded and therefore wide open. And at that point, my good, the good of others are the same thing. I can't possibly be violent or selfish because there's no self there to be selfish. And Shanika's from Tamworth, England. Very good. Thank you. Soundscape. Speaking of, oops. Where'd you go? Sometimes this thing. Soundscape. Like you said, humans aren't naturally violent. Oh, I got that one. Sorry. Not only that, sometimes the way they do it, disgusting. Yes, I could go on all night about that, but this is satsang. We have to look, the point of satsang is to look at the deeper underlying values, the things that got us to this position where we're so blind to our own actions and so addicted to what we've created that we cannot see the monstrous actions we are doing, completely unconsciously. Consciousness will put an end to it. And of course, thank God, consciousness is awakening. You're here because you're awakening. I'm here because I'm awakening. That's why we're gathering like this, because that awakening is taking place. Sean says, the more I mature, the more dissatisfied I feel with life. It feels like there's no point to wanting to achieve anything because it will all go away at some point in time. Well, yes, that is the essence. That's one of the essence of the Buddha's teachings, that it is all impermanent, right? Now, you have a choice. You can fall into nihilism, go, well, none of this matters, so what cares and who cares? Or you can simply say, well, what does matter? What isn't going to go away? Well, I'm not going to go away. Love isn't going to go away. Expansion, compassion, those aren't going to go away. So while anything in particular I do is going to be temporal, it's going to come and go, the spirit and the heart with which I do it will still be present in it. It's like a piece of great art, right? The art long outlives the artist because there's something alive in it. But even that, even at some point, even what we regard now as the great compositions will fade off into history, just the way, you know, the music from 2,000 years ago, which I'm sure was great and sophisticated, and, you know, philosophers wrote about it and that sort of stuff. It's gone. We have no record of it. It's just, you know, kind of vaporized into history because things change so dramatically. But does that mean you shouldn't write music? Of course not, because in the moment, there's joy and beauty in it. So it becomes not about what am I going to do with my life or what's this big contribution I'm going to make. It's like, well, what do I do right now? So for me, you know, when I go into a little store, electronics store here to pick up something because it's a local guy and he's running his own business, right? And he lent me the hand truck to bring something home once, which that would never happen in Best Buy. I go there, right? I support him. I give him my love. You know, I go to the grocery store. I'm trying to actively give my energy and love to whoever's checking me out. This moment matters, not because it's part of some greater scheme of it, but because this moment matters. So you just put your heart into this moment, whatever it might be, and that's it. You're dissatisfied with life if you're trying to get something from it and it's not giving it to you. Well, it can't. It's waiting for you. It's just a mirror. It's waiting for you to give. And that's where the satisfaction comes from. Then life won't be unsatisfying. You are life. Life's not over here somewhere and you're here. You are life. So bring your innate satisfaction to it. Don't look for satisfaction in it. It's not there. Melinda, hello, Melinda. The only thing we know for sure is I am here. Who am I? Where is here? Well, yes, and as I started the whole satsang that I was talking about, mysticism, and of course, right there is where the only answer to that question is a direct mystical experience of it. So the only thing I know for sure is I am here. Every thought I have about me, I don't know if that's true, right? What I am, what I'm told I am, all those things, I don't know if that's true. What I know is I am here and I'm aware of thoughts. I'm aware of feelings. I'm aware of sensations. I'm aware of all sorts of things. And if I turn my attention away from what I'm aware of to the one that is aware, away from the object to the subject, away from the, I see my thoughts to the I, and just hold the attention there, you have completely reversed the flow of energy that the vast majority of humans are completely transfixed by. And most of our days are transfixed on what is out there. I am angry. I'm sad. I want this. I'm hungry. But the attention is not on the subject. It's on the object. So when you realize that the only thing you know for sure is the nature of your own being, we should become really curious about what is my actual nature. So I go back to that. Who am I? But every time you have a thought about it, that thought is secondary. It's descriptive. It can't really be true. It can't be absolutely true, right? And so the attention goes back to the sense of I itself, and eventually just kind of stays there. And it's there where the door opens, and you truly do see what you are. But it's not the knowing, it is the mystical. It is the direct experience of it. Does that answer it for you, Melinda? Juan Rijo, hi GP from Dominican. Have you ever done an ayahuasca ceremony? I have done stuff in my life. I've not done the official ayahuasca tea ceremony thing. I know a lot of people do that have. Very close friends of mine. You know, one of my brothers in the spirit is a shamanic leader. He leads people on the journey. There's a lot of study going into it, to how it experiences, and the role that plant medicine could play in the awakening. I think it already has. So I'm certainly not opposed to it. I think for many people it's the doorway to that mystical experience of the dissolution of the self, if it's done right. There's it's very trendy now. It's very popular, right? So I would urge people to, if you're interested in that sort of thing, to take your time and find somebody who's been around the block a few times. Because there's a lot of people that, you know, they can just get their hands on the stuff, and they get together and they, you know, charge you money but they're not really skilled at being with you during the journey. And if somebody's going to journey with you, they're going to drink the tea, and don't do it, because the guys leading it aren't doing it. They're there for you. It's create this perfect support mechanism. When they're doing clinical trials, for testing it on addictions and that sort of thing, to get it reclassified as having medical value. That's why all the psychedelic drugs are Schedule 1 drugs. According to Schedule 1, they're highly addictive, highly dangerous, highly toxic, and have no medicinal value. And of course, those kinds of it's all nonsense. It was all made up. It was all made up by a culture that didn't like the fact that that somebody having a mystical experience is a direct threat to the status quo. So it kind of got put on it, but it's opened up again, and the research is going on. But if you look at the care that they put into creating the environment in which it happens, while it's not on the level of a sacred ceremony, it is extremely careful. It is extremely well managed. It is extremely safe, right? To do the point of doing it within the context of the sacred ritual is you create that space, because if you should have the experience of the dissolution of your egoic self, it can be a rather intimidating thing. But people had that during meditation. I've had some of my students who are like, "What's happening?" And we just kind of go through it a little bit, and we keep them grounded, bring them back to the body. So it doesn't have to be ayahuasca or mushroom or LSD or DMT or the millions of things that are available out there. And in fact, long term, it needs to be sustainable within yourself, and that's where anybody who wants to do that, if you do not have a meditation practice, a good meditation practice, do that first. Begin to ground yourself into a place where there's an inner opening, an inner expansiveness, an ability to be with your own feelings and thoughts. If you think you're just going to jump into mystic space and take it by storm, you are sorely mistaken. It will grind you to powder. So there's an emotional preparation that needs to take place, and it's one that has to be sustained. It's not the kind of thing you do every day. Maybe some people do it once in a lifetime. Some do it, a little bit more often. But the idea is that it is to open ourselves up to the kind of practices where we realize that the purpose of life is to awaken consciousness from its dream of believing itself to be this egoic mind. So I hope that answers your question there, Juan. Sean says, I feel very numb lately. There has been quite a few disappointing things that happened, and it all looks pretty grim and feels like life is just going to disappoint me again. Okay, now, let's be really simple with this. I feel numb. Okay, I don't know what that means. People say that. It means that kind of nothing has any meaning or motivation to you. I've felt it many, many times. So just be with that feeling, okay? Now, the mind, the natural course of the mind is to make up a story about it, right? I told you, the mind, that's what it does. It makes up stories. It doesn't like just to be with a feeling. So the story is, I've had these disappointing things happen, right? So now it's going to repeat those disappointing things, which will emphasize the feeling that's there. Take your attention away from the disappointing things, this litany, and simply bring it back to just the feeling. The feeling is here. It is present. It is real. The thoughts are not. They are secondary. They are interpretations. And then it says, it looks pretty grim. Well, it doesn't look grim here and now. If you turn towards the future and say, oh, this is always going to happen, it's always going to be like that, it looks grim. But you don't have to worry about the future. You only have to worry about now. How you are now is how you will be in the future. Because when the future comes, guess what? It's now. That's all you ever experience. Your only relationship you ever have is with now. We never have to worry about the future. We simply have to worry, how am I showing up now? It feels like it's going to just disappoint me again. It's just an idea, isn't it? It's a thought. If you go along with it, you'll have this picture of your life and it's going to suck forever. And I'm feeling bad. And of course, the nervous system kind of shuts down from that. God, what a horrible image. Just begin the practice of being with the feeling and just noticing the story is just a story. That's the practice. That's being in the now. That's what Eckhart Tolle refers to as the power of now. You are simply present with what is. I feel this. You don't even need to put the word numb on it. Just, what's the feeling? Oh, this is that feeling. And watch and see if the story is no longer followed and believed. Watch what happens to that feeling, whatever it is. Give that a shot there, Sean. St. Hills, have to head out. Thank you for your knowledge, GP. Have a good satsang, everyone. Thank you, St. Hills. Soundscape, Mr. Walsh. Oh my God, Mr. Walsh. It's my father. I'm a vegan. I think the industry is messed up. Had to change. Can't touch animal products anymore. I totally agree with you. Anybody who has ever stopped long enough to actually look at it is abhorred. Absolutely abhorred. I could tell you, I had some stories that were just like right in my face, and I just couldn't deny it anymore when I was still eating meat, which has been, 25 years now. Those of you who are on the fence about it, there's a wonderful documentary called Cowspiracy. I highly recommend it, which goes into everything about very reason, runs the numbers, talks about sustainability. It's very intelligently done. And, the conclusion is absolute. Eating meat is unsustainable for us and the planet. Morally corrupt. It is the worst pollutant of the environment. That, yeah, the 51% of all the greenhouse gases and the like that are creating global warming are coming from animal agriculture because it's completely unregulated. It's a lot. It's a big deal. So I highly recommend that people get in, check that out, and become conscious. You know, how we treat the other critters on the planet is a reflection of how we've objectified it. We've turned everything into a commodity. You're a commodity. You're a consumer. You're not a human being anymore. You're a consumer. We do it to other races. We do it to women because men happen to be the dominant one in this. Everything gets objectified. It's something to be used and disposed of. What a completely different view of nature that that the native, the Aboriginals had, just seeing themselves as integral to it. When we got this illusion that somehow we're these separate beings, we're separate from nature and we're above nature and we're to dominate nature, we literally lit the fuse on our suicide bomb. That is the shift in consciousness that has to take over. And it's becoming so obvious, you know, that it's just abhorrent. You just see it, you go, I can't do it anymore. So thank you, Soundscape. Juan says, to me, one of the most mystical, just lost my place. One of the most mystical, beautiful experience. And after the trip, I got some insights and all, but a sensation of stillness that I am remain, like the most clearly possible. Real gratitude and experience unconditional love, and somehow remember that I felt it before. How to get back there to this natural state? It's a beautiful question, and many people who have done the journeying will say that, because it is something. I don't know how it works. You know, I've looked at the brain chemistry, some of that, and all of that, but I'm not one who believes that consciousness is produced by the brain. Neither does the Dalai Lama. By the way, I heard a quote from him today that he said that the idea that the brain produces consciousness in some way, he says, is a metaphysical assumption, not a scientific fact. That is the assumption. And they're so examining how do you wrap objective science around a totally subjective experience? And they study the brain, MRIs, and that sort of thing. But ultimately, it's totally anecdotal, my subjective experience. And people talk about that same kind of thing. They have to go far enough in it and just let themselves surrender to their fears and the stuff that's going on, that this place of stillness happens that does impact them for the rest of their lives. Now, your question, how to get back there, is also the question for everybody who has the spiritual experience in meditation or non-dual inquiry. The mind wants to cling to it as an experience. It has turned, what's happened is how do I get back there? The egoic sense of I has arisen once more. And now it's interpreting what you experienced from there, thinking, how do I do that again? The short answer is, stop seeking to go back. What you are is not an experience. You are that stillness. Stillness is not something you experience. Trace back to the I. Go back to the sense of I am, because that's where it is. Don't become the seeker of the experience. Become the sought, because that's really all you're seeking, is what you actually are. You are that stillness. You are that I am. Now, it's just clouded because the habitual patterns of the mind that we call the ego have simply been reactivated, and they have not completely been purged from the system yet. They will be, as long as you don't get sucked into their story about what happened and stay with the essence of what happened here and see it as the robot. That's why I created the whole series of courses on inner reconciliation, was to manage this territory, to prepare you, the territory, for the ability to see that you are not that, and then how to work with that energy after the fact, because it's still there. You know, as I said, it's very rare when that finally dissipates forever. Usually after a long period of time, or in very special cases. I mean, God knows how long people are preparing to actually get to that point where there's this final total release, and it is gone for good, like Muji and Ramana and Buddha and Papaji and Nisargadatta and there's some others around on the planet too. So that's the kind of meditative inquiry that you want to bring to it, because you'll notice that the way you said it, there's a sense of I that's trying to get back to an experience. If you identify with that sense of I, you will chase that experience forever. Yeah. When you're chasing the oasis, which is nothing but the mirage in the desert, doesn't matter how fast you run, doesn't matter how far you run, it's always exactly the same distance away, right? Because it's not there, it's here. Right? Turn your attention from the reflection of the moon in the water back to the moon that's being reflected there. Joni, hi Joni. What is the best way that we can individually help in raising the vibration of the collective consciousness in the world? Oh, beautiful, 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 beautiful. I love this question. Because obviously as a spiritual teacher, I've got a lot of people, getting into the internal work, but I love it when we begin to realize that it's not just about that. There's a relationship with the entire outside world that we need to come back to. First we go in, then we go out. You know, they say in Zen, you go up the mountain for yourself, you come down the mountain for others. It is when you raise your vibration, which simply means you get closer and closer to who you actually are. Who you actually are is the purest vibration there is. It's made impure by our identification with the egoic mind. The more you do that, the more naturally your energy begins to harmonize, spread around, and kind of like paint itself into the field of the collective consciousness of humanity. You'll also begin to feel more in your own body the errors and the conditioning of humanity. Right? It gets to the point where the line between what's my energy and what's their energy gets really, really blurred. But the more open you are, the more reconciled you are with yourself, the more transparent you are, it doesn't strike you. It just moves through you, which makes you a kind of a filtering place for the crud of human consciousness to kind of pass through and pass out the other side, purified. And it's not like it's collecting here, but within your light, it's just kind of, it's dissolving back into its essential nature. So the answer is always your own awakening is what does it. The more you are awake, the more you will see the awakeness in others, and the more that will affect others. The more you hold people in that same light that you're discovering for yourself, the more they respond to it. Even though they don't know what it is, they will respond to it. It's a very deep subject to explore, because relationships with others is extremely important. I do not take this kind of spiritual position that many do, that it's a very solitary thing. It is, but that's not all there is to it. It is solitary, but interactive. I bring my solitude, I bring my openness, I bring my transparency out to others, and I interact from there. as I interact from there, I bring an energy to every circumstance. If I walk in to a circumstance without an agenda, if I just walk in and I'm nobody, I got no axe to grind, I got nothing to get out of this moment. I am pure presence. It means that the infinite resources within me are available to whatever that moment needs. Because I'm not showing up as somebody and I want it to go the way I want it to go. I'm showing up as this expansive, empty nobody, right? Agendaless. And the end result, I become the most powerful being in the room because I can perfectly respond to whatever's happening. It's no longer a robot responding. It's life itself responding. It's the unconditioned being responding. Does that help you, Joni? Eli says, surrender to the Tao. Amen to that. Swisher Sleaze. That's a great name. How should I deal with toxic people? Well, simplest way, don't hang with them. Get them out of your life. Move away from them, right? Now, you can't always do that. People at work, a boss, somebody in your family. In which case, the problem isn't their toxicity. Their problem is your reaction to it. Nobody's state of mind or energy can affect you if you are conscious of your reaction to it. Our reaction causes suffering, not any circumstance. So when somebody who is toxic is in the environment, but you don't react to it, there it is. They're the same beingness I am. They're lost in that particular dream. Their robot is playing this stuff out. There's openness, there's forgiveness, there's presence. That has an effect. And those people will eventually either move out of your life or some way, or they'll respond. Sometimes they suddenly respond. They start becoming kind. They start actually, becoming human. Because toxic people, and really all of us, we get stuck in certain positions because it's the way we learn to interact from the time we were very young. And the tendency is because this is the way the nervous system has been kind of programmed, automated to act. It tends to create circumstances in which it can act like that, right? So you become the toxic one, and people treat you like the toxic one, which, it's a vicious cycle. So, right? So if you introduce a completely different energy to it, the toxicity is going to go, huh? Because it's not getting back the same kind of feedback. It's very, very powerful. I do it all the time in the therapeutic use of inner reconciliation. I also do it with EFT. You're constantly introducing into the environment, into this energetic position, an element that it hadn't planned on, namely love and acceptance. The more you do that, the more open you are to that, the more effect that it has, the more powerful you become, and you become imperturbable. And suddenly, everything around you begins to change. So, step one, if you can, just get them out of your life. You don't need to worry about it. If you can't, it becomes an opportunity for your practice. It's an opportunity for sadhana. They become your guru, your teacher, for you to start putting your attention inside to see, how am I actually responding to this? What's going on? How am I contributing to this? What am I being invited to see and expand? Hope that answers it for you. Soundscape added, I had to give it up. Thanks for responding anyway. I did ask what you thought of vegan prior to the second statement. Oh, sorry. Yeah. I think it's inevitable for all of us. End of story. We don't need to eat animals. There are substitutes. Yeah, we can. And it will be a moral choice because we can. We're omnivores. We can eat them, right? And on a certain level, the body, there's certain substances that the body needs that are most readily available there. But we do not have to. There are other sources, and we will just simply eventually, don't know when, but eventually we will get to the level of conscious maturity that eating animals will become just people. I mean, you wouldn't think about eating your cat, right? I mean, it'll be that reprehensible. Shanika says, thanks for the beautiful answers, GP. Really enjoy your satsang. We appreciate your work. Love, love, love. Thank you, Shanika. Thank you for thank you for that. I love showing up to see what the universe has to say. I do not know what the next word is going to be. The next words coming out of my mouth are going to be, I just kind of follow it. Sometimes it surprises me. Sometimes I think, God, did I just say anything of value? I mean, sometimes it feels like flat. Like I don't get it. And people say, oh, that was great. So you just kind of let it flow. Sean says, thanks, GP. You're welcome. You're welcome, sir. Victoria in London. Hi, GP. Hi there, Victoria. Juan says, thank you, GP. I love your dedication and the way you address our questions. I really appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you so much. I wish more people will stumble on your YouTube channel. I'd like that. I think that would be really good. It would help. it would help. We kind of operate all of this on a shoestring. Having more people in the classes or joining me on Patreon to kind of help out, it would be great. And that's for me personally. That's me wanting stuff for me. On the bigger stage, I just really think, am I the ultimate teacher? Am I the ultimate authority? No, absolutely not. I just want to lead the conversation to a level of depth that is befitting us as mature spiritual beings. Humanity is at a point where we can stop thinking about just accumulating more shit and start actually putting our attention towards things that are important. So this conversation has got to become elevated. We've got to be stop being brainwashed by this constant drive to consume stuff, which serves nothing and is just sucking the planet dry, and turn our attention to discussing and exploring and engaging each other on a level of humanity that we're capable of. And we are capable of so much more. So I hope my contribution here is doing just that. And I just love seeing the quality of questions that I get, because it shows me that this is going on. This is no joke, right? And we're all tired. We're all tired of the crass commercialism, of the exploitation, of the objectification of animals and the planet and women. And we're all tired of it. We're sick of it. It is so unsatisfying. And yet they never give us anything else. It's constantly the same thing, the robots that run the world. And that's really what they are. They're just these robotic, insane robots. And but sanity is here. We are talking sanity here. It just has to grow. Here, somewhere else, I mean, really, who cares? As long as this conversation expands, that we're all doing our job. So thank you, Juan. That's really beautiful, and thank you for your question. It was really good, and I hope the answer got with you, because it's one of the very subtlest tricks of the egoic mind to position itself back in the driver's seat, but now it's the spiritual seeker, right? And you can go on years as the seeker until you realize, wait a minute, that's not me either. That's just another energy pushing outward. So thank you, buddy. Pam, got to go. Thanks again, GP. Have made such a difference for me. Life has become interesting again. Oh, Pam, wonderful. Thank you. Joni says, thank you. Very helpful. 1-1. Great. Shanika says, if you ever plan to visit UK, don't forget to update us. Would love to meet you. I have been wanting forever to get to Europe and around. And the thing is, I really just don't have enough students or fans or followers or people who engage with me regularly around the world to be able to do it. I just don't have enough of a fan base to be able to sustain it. So, at some point, maybe I will, because I would love to help bring it. I am doing a live retreat, 2 weeks, starting July 27th through the 29th, Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday, in Canada, in British Columbia, Canada, put on by the Krishnamurti Education Center. So if you go gpwalsh.com/retreat, if you're in that area and you want to stop in, it's very, very inexpensive because it's a nonprofit. I'm doing it for free. And if you can, fly over to hang out for 3 days, it's going to be very interesting, in an institution established by one of the biggest figures in the 20th century, J. Krishnamurti. So it'd be kind of those are shoes to try to fill. So, Alex, do you think Donald Trump is here to help expand the world's consciousness, or is he just a rich guy who became president? I think he's both, actually. I think he's just kind of an aberration. I could talk about it all the time and want to offend anybody who likes him, but he's clearly in over his head. He's clearly not running the country. Somebody else is really calling the shots, and he's putting on a show. He's a reality TV show. Yeah, who happened through some cleverness and not much on his part really, and a fluke of the particular period of time we were in, ended up becoming the most sitting in the most powerful position in the world. Well, the apparently most powerful position in the world. If you look really closely, the people who are really calling the shots are buried deeply and around. It's the oil industry and the banking industry and the CIA and the military. I mean, the president isn't really the one who's calling the shots, but he's the perfect bumbling front person, and they can blame it all on him. And so I think you're right on both counts. The advantage to us of having something like that is that we actually get to see the egoic mind at its worst. We get to actually see. I see Donald Trump as an image of the ego of America, self-indulgent, not worried about anybody but itself. Really nepotistic, narcissistic. It's a reflection of what this particular country has become, based on it's this relentless drive towards the accumulation of wealth. It's made us insane. It's made us inhuman. And I think he's actually a poster child for it. It's a great representation. So in that sense, if we look at it and go, really, is this the direction we want to go? It's also really revealing about how the media portrays. I mean, there's so much richness here, but it is definitely a call to consciousness that such things can happen. So I hope I'm not offending anybody, because I don't think the Democrats are any better. I think everybody's owned. I'm really that cynical about the entire thing, and the entire structure I think is going to collapse. I don't think we're going to repair it. I'm just hoping that it will do so in a way that we will be increasingly conscious to the point where the impact of it will be minimized, and we will simply just unite and create a very different world with very, very different systems. And I see signs of that happening. So I'm optimistic about it. I am. I don't think we're going to wipe ourselves out. I think we're going to make it. I don't think it's going to be pretty for a bit, but I think we are going to make it. And a completely different kind of consciousness is emerging. And the systems as they exist represent a mode of consciousness that was appropriate in human evolution to a point, but it is obsolete, and it's just holding on for dear life. It is dying. And what's being resurrected in its ashes is just stunningly beautiful. It's what you and I are all doing here. So, great question, Alex. Thank you. Hello, GP. Could you speak about forgiveness of self and others, as I find myself reacting to the robots rather than seeing the reflection of as myself? Thank you, Sophie. I'm actually kind of enjoying the fact that the term I started using, robot, is catching on. If you see that the robot is a robot, right? We don't want to forgive somebody because we want to hold them morally responsible. And this is a touchy issue, I know. Let me be really clear about it. We are responsible for the consequences of what the robot does, but we are not responsible for the robot. You understand that? We do bear the consequences of what these things, of what the conditioned patterns of the system does, our unconscious behavior, our unconscious cruelty and stupidity. We bear the consequences of that. We have to. That's the only way we can see through it. But when you see that this, until that consciousness arises, you are not talking about a human being with choice and discernment. You are talking about a robot simply doing what it was programmed to do. There's nothing there to forgive or not forgive. There's nobody there. It is a mindless, empty pattern of behavior that is being clung to by a consciousness that is sound asleep. Once you see that, forgiveness can begin to emerge. Forgive them, Father. They don't know what they're doing. You can't hold somebody to that kind of moral culpability when they have no control over their actions. And so Christ even went so far as to, it forgave everybody, even the people that killed him. Didn't even bother defending himself. And the lesson in that is just magnificent. Total surrender to what was, without even trying to defend his position in the slightest. And in so doing, by not taking the role of being some kind of a victim or champion, he went to this other place where there was no victim, which means there was no perpetrator. I find that when I really get in touch with the original innocence that lives within each one of us, the original innocence, which is just surrounded by this shell, the self-protective shell, which is the robot, as we kind of burrow through that, we find an original innocence that's still there. Innocent, pure, pristine, untouched. And that's where forgiveness is. And that's the only place you can find it, right? So I hope that answers it for you, Sophie. It's a very powerful one. And just simply become increasingly aware of the pain that the robot has caused you. And instantly, you will have a completely different view towards others. You will understand what they're going through. And if they don't see it yet, you know exactly what they're going to experience. At some point, consciousness begins to wake up and go, oh my God, what have I done? And it hurts like hell. But that hurt is the transformative power. That's the awakening of wisdom. And pretty much that's the only way it can come. All right, a couple more questions. Alex K. Ista, the one name I can't pronounce, Ista Oskamasi. Don't look to politicians for your salvation. Each of us has to do the inner work. No politician will save us. No, because they're all, their whole job is to maintain and grow this system. The system is dead. The system doesn't work. All of our modern political and economic systems do not work for this new level of human being that's emerging. So, I mean, it is doomed. So, no, it's not going to come from there. It's coming right from here. It's coming from you. It's coming from what we're doing right here, elevating that kind of that consciousness. The space frog dig baby. I love these names. How do you notice the space of awareness? Do you exist? You said yes. In between, when I said, do you exist? And then you answered yes. Where did your attention go? What was it looking at to determine if you existed? Notice it wasn't looking at anything. Something turned inward and you simply intuitively felt it. That is the space of awareness. And that's how you notice it. It's that simple. It's the space between words. It's the feeling I am, without anything mixed up with it, not anything added on. No thoughts, no concepts, no ideas, no nothing. No story, no history, no memories, no associations, no sensations or emotions. Nothing added on to it. Just the awareness of everything, right? Without the everything. Just the attention on that which is aware. That's it. That is the space of awareness. You'll notice that in the question, and a lot of people do this, we talk about this awareness. The mind very naturally wants to turn it into some state that it can get to. That's what it does, right? It's looking for an object, because awareness isn't an object. It's formless. It's boundless. It doesn't. You can't contain it. The moment you draw a line around it, it's not awareness anymore. And you'll notice that you're aware of the line and everything around it. As such, that habitual pattern of trying to find some kind of idea to go with it, this is where it falls out. This is where it becomes mystical, right? It's not an object. You can't see it. You can't touch it. So you can't notice the space of awareness. You know the space of awareness as the awareness, because you're it. And you can't know yourself as an object. You can only know yourself intimately as yourself. Is that deepen it for you, Space Frog? He says, thank you. Alex says, how can we best prepare for death? Beautiful. Beautiful. To understand life is to understand death. To understand that they are two sides of the continuum. Everything comes together, everything comes apart. If you look at your life, you will see you've gone through thousands of deaths. I remember so fondly my sons as little boys. Newborns, and then toddlers, and then little kids, and then in school, through every part of their life, every moment. I can take any one of those time slices, picture of their life, and go, oh, and just warms me up. I miss the 5-year-old version, the 10-year-old version. I miss them terribly, right? In a sense, that 5-year-old has died. Gave birth to the 6-year-old or 7-year-old, right? Something maintained continuity, right? But not the form. So we experience this loss all the time. I used to be faster than I am now. I used to have blonde hair. I used to not have so many sags and wrinkles. That version of me is gone. It's as if it's a death. And as a matter of fact, your body is constantly, cells are dying and dying off. I understand that 50 or 60% of the dust in the average person's house is actually dead skin. Right? So these cells, at some point, the entire structure itself just kind of dissolves. But if you notice that within all of this constant ongoing change that is all the time, it never stops, there is something that is always there. I bring your attention to that and focus your attention on that which is just there, that which is aware of things coming and going, being born and dying. And just putting your attention there, see if it had a beginning. Think, oh, it started with the body. Well, see if you can, that's a nice idea. It's the belief. But looking right at the sensation of the awareness of everything, of this constantly changing kaleidoscope of it, does that awareness itself feel like it had a beginning, or does it feel like it is permanent? I've never known anybody who didn't go there and say, it doesn't feel like it had a beginning, it doesn't feel like it's going to end. And that's a direct experience of the nature of awareness itself. Now, that's not to say that we don't have loves and attachments, right? You know, I'm sure that when I die, when this body dissolves and I am no longer perceivable as GP, that there are people who are going to miss me. There are people in my life who have passed on, and I miss them. Right? I don't use that as an excuse for cutting myself off or reframing it, or they're not really dead, even though they're not. Right? There's still something, that form is gone for good, and that makes it precious to me. So death gives things a value that they wouldn't otherwise have. The 5-year-old version of my children have an incredible value because they're never going to be again. It's never going to happen again. And so I can grieve it, but that grief is actually just this deep love and appreciation for this moment that I got to experience. And so now you see that the birth and death are not antagonistic to one another. They are what gives everything its meaning and its presence. And that they are the appearance of form to the formless. And the formless has no beginning, no end. And the forms never really have a beginning. They never really start, they never really end. They're just this constant flow of just limitless unfolding beauty. It's probably more of a poetic answer than certainly than anywhere precise, but that's really the way I have to approach it. I just see it as this incredible inherent cycle of life that has enormous wisdom and brings value. It really shows me the value of things because I know they're not going to be here forever. Melinda, I keep remembering Van Morrison into the Mystic. Ishta says, we can also prepare for death by realizing that we already died and came here to this place called Earth. Yes, it's a way to approach it. The idea that you will go on, and you will. There will be more experiences. It won't be this, right? So, but I like to really approach it in a way that makes this moment significant, not just a stepping stone to somewhere else. It's okay to lose this because you're going to get something else. Because it isn't okay that you're going to lose this. This is valuable. This matters. This moment matters. Not because it's in this big, it's connected to some other moment or some other big, it's not a stepping stone. This moment matters because it is unique in all time. So that gives me a heart connection to it that for me takes it to a much deeper level. Chosen one. Hey, chosen one. Hey, GP. How to know if steps we take are the result of just being and not conditioning? We have to meditate and develop intuition. Yes. What you're doing is you're developing a discernment of the impulses and motions and motivations that are coming to us. And the ones that are really arising out of egoic interest have a different flavor about them. They kind of got a kind of slightly stale smell to them, right? So there's just a qualitative feeling about it. And if you can't tell, I tend to just kind of let myself sit with them, right? To not be in a hurry, to not be afraid of it being an egoic choice. It may be, and you make it, eventually it will reveal itself as something that really isn't coming from in your highest interest. It'll always be, serving some kind of perpetuation of the egoic self. And sometimes you have to sit with it long enough, because all desire actually does arise. All of our natural impulses arise from who you actually are. They don't belong to the ego. The ego comes later and attaches to them and tries to usurp their power. The ego doesn't actually create a desire. It's not a thing. It's just a collection of thoughts, right? So when that energy arises of some kind of desire and is immediately runs into the energy of the robot, which grabs a hold of it, sometimes we have to sit for a while till finally we can see clearly what the actual desire is and what is the egoic overlay on it. That's what I teach in body awareness and inner reconciliation. Is all about getting into that space and being there long enough so that wise discernment and distinguishing can happen, to not be in a hurry to kind of go one way or another, but to let the seasoning take place, and eventually the wisdom becomes clear, and then that which is inappropriate just kind of falls away by itself, and the other then actually gets liberated and takes you to some great places. So, okay. So I hear if people keep saying, turning your attention on what's knowing, does that stabilize at some point? Yeah, it does. Yeah, you do hear it a lot. But don't resist it because of that. If you turn it into something that's not a practice you have to do, but you actually look for it, really look for it, and when you find it, get curious about it. Otherwise, it's just another practice you have to do, and you won't do it. We can only maintain discipline so long, right? There's got to be a payoff in it, and if it's like that, well, do something else. Go have a margarita or something. I mean, this isn't what it's all about. It's about discovering things that grab your curiosity. Whoa, what's that? That's interesting. And so that's really what it's to bring back. It's not to get to some special place. It's to let you go, wait a minute, that there is something here that's aware of everything, and I don't know what it is. In other words, I don't know who I am. Whatever that is, it's me. Right? It's registering here. I'm the one that's hearing and seeing and experiencing all these things. What the hell is it? Now that there's some energy behind that, right? There's some real curiosity about it. There's some like, whoa, what is that? I don't know who I am. I've been thinking of all this stuff out here, and I have all these ideas, but every one of them is appearing in front of this thing. What is this thing? What the hell is it? Now there's a curiosity that is self-feeding. You're going to feed yourself with the energy. It's kind of like you get interested in some subject. There's probably some subject you're going to, maybe it's, some hobby or playing an instrument, or maybe, somebody who studies butterflies, right? Or bird watching, right? They're just so into it. It's not discipline. They just do it because it's like, damn, this is interesting. That's the spirit with which to approach it. Don't approach spirituality like another job you got to do. Oh, good God. Well, I got to meditate for another 2 hours a day, and then I got to do my service practice, and oh, good God, no, take me out and shoot me. Space Frog, people saying I got it, buddy. I got it. Helen, hi, Helen. Those close to me who have died, tragic premature end to their lives. In the moment of their death, I sensed their amazing beauty and felt complete life around them. Yes, we can become that sensitive. Things about, on drug experiences, near-death experiences, a lot of stuff that's we're just kind of poo-pooed. The boundary between life and death is is becoming increasingly transparent. And we find that most of it is just in our minds. Not most, all of it is actually in our mind. This boundary of death isn't real. We just keep looking for forms. The end of the form is real, but as you notice, the form's always ending, right? You know, in my case, I'm on body number 10. Every 7 years, you have a completely new body. So the form is always coming into existence, going out of existence. It's only our attachment to this form that makes death seem intimidating and then make us think someone is gone because the form isn't there anymore. That's like saying that the singer is gone because the radio got broken. They're still there, right? It's just imperceivable, formless. Space Frog, Dig Baby, thank you so much. You have explained certain things that have confused me. Great, 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 great. That's my job, you know, clarify the cloudy. That's what we're here for. All right, I think I'm seeing that nothing else. Ah, great. Yeah, I think I want to bring it to a close here. And so thank you all. As always, thank you all for showing up. Thank you for giving your attention to these things. Thanks for allowing yourself to be kind of dragged into the mystery of this, because it is mysterious. The more you look at yourself and realize you can't see yourself and that nothing you think about yourself is true, you become really, really mysterious. Go, what? Yeah. I'm formless? Yeah. It becomes, whoa. Whoa. Sophie, thank you, GP. Feel that I do have to work with this. Good. Space Frog, can you clarify separation, the separate self? Thank you. You do it so brilliantly, beautifully. Thank you, G. Thank you, Chrissy. Thank you, Alex. I'll do a quick thing on the separate self because it's very important. Separate self is what I call the robot, right? The separate self is the creation of a bunch of patterns of and responses in the nervous system that are all reactive to the environment. They're all about these patterns get put into place to make you safe within the environment, get you what you need. I mean, this is how the nervous system works. It's adaptive behavior, and it works very successfully. It keeps us alive. Then we begin. But what happens is that consciousness identifies with that body, and identifying with the body identifies with all the conditioning. And now the robot seems to actually be a person and who I am. And so now the consciousness, which is not the body, believes itself to be the body, and therefore experiences it as the body and feels the limitations and constrictions of the body. That belief, animated by consciousness, is the separate self. It's not really a thing. It is a projection of consciousness on what in fact is a mindless functioning patterns of energy and response. It projects itself onto that, and it seems like the egoic separate self comes into existence. It doesn't really come into existence. It is simply something upon which the sense of self is being projected. Awakening is recognizing that, and that sense of self returns back to the consciousness that projected it on it, and that's what's called the awakening. That's my thumbnail view of that. How's that? Hope that worked for you, Space Frog. Cool. Got it. Thank you. The form has gone, but their beauty and life, which is their self, continues. Yes. We just can't think of them as a person anymore. You know, GP will be gone, right? But I'm not going anywhere, folks. You're stuck with me. Juan says, thank you, GP. Judy says, thanks for awesome satsang. Thank you from Anne. Thanks from the Space Frog. Thanks from Helen, from Linda. Thanks to all of you. This is such a joy that I get to do this, and I look forward to doing more and more. If I had my way, I would just do this all day long. So thank you all. I love you. Until next time.